in terms of voting in South Africa and mostly counting for this morning. I'm joined in this press briefing. I've got Dr. Masuku just next to me here, Commissioner of the IEC. Next to her, I've got Chief Electoral Officer, Ndate Saima Mabolo. Next to him is Commissioner Love, Vice Chairperson of the IEC. Next to her is Ndate Mashinini, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Glenn Mashinini. And then next to him is Judge Daya, Commissioner of the IEC. And then next to her is Commissioner Mosoto Miepia, Commissioner of the IEC. With that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Electoral Commission, the National Results Operations Center, where everything is happening. Without much ado, let me call my boss, Mr. Saima Mabolo, Chief Electoral Officer, to give us an update.
Good morning, everybody. We'd like to confirm that voting stations all closed and that the actual counting at the voting station level has been concluded. The Electoral Commission reports that as at 10:30 this morning, 27% of the 64,504 results expected had been finalized. This status is in line with expected results capturing progression. It is estimated that 90% of the results will be finalized by this evening. The balance of the 10% will take another 24 hours to complete. The province of the Northern Cape has completed 74% of its results. It is followed by the Western Cape at 46%. And in the third place comes the province of the Free State at 26%. The rest of the provinces, the completion rate ranges between 15 and 37%. The results capturing involves a number of processes, including the verification of the result slips, the capturing, scanning, and the auditing of those results. An independent audit firm has been procured for purposes of auditing the results. The Commission would like to call upon all leaders of political parties to act and speak responsibly as the result collation process unfolds. As you will recall, the Commission had anticipated a prospect of a lower turnout already in July and approached the Constitutional Court. Nonetheless, the Commission implemented an extensive education and communication campaign to ensure that voters turn out to vote. This included educational programs that assured voters that it will be safe to be at voting stations. Furthermore, it is important to realize that voter turnout is a multifaceted phenomenon influenced by different factors. Some of the elements that motivate voters to go relate to matters outside of the purview of the Commission, such as disruptions to services, level of trust, and the level of trust in political institutions. Regrettably, unwarranted attacks on the Commission could potentially also influence voter turnout. So in the analysis of voter turnout, the COVID context in which an election happened should also not be forgotten. The national message in this regard has been that people must not be in congregate environments. Now, The Commission believes that the voter management devices were the mainstay equipment of this election. These devices have ensured that we continue to meet the Constitutional Court injunction that voters may only vote in wards in which they are registered, and that every voter must have an address on the voter's roll. 12.1 million voters were processed through the VMDs over the 2 days of special votes as well as on election day. This means that we are confident that these voters who voted in the wards in which they reside. This is important control measure in a local government election because of the geographic element of the contestation. Through the use of this technology, the Commission was, for the first time, able to register and simultaneously capture addresses of voters during the registration weekend in September. Address capturing would have taken months to complete without the voter management devices, as was previously the case. Over the election period, a total of 176,000 additional addresses were included on the voters' roll from voters who previously did not have an address. Now, the issue of the enfranchising of voters. If voters present themselves at the voting station where they were not on the voters' roll, but there was proof that they had applied for registration at that station before the proclamation date, such voters are entitled to vote using the procedure prescribed in Section 7.2 of the Municipal Electoral Act. Given the technical glitches during the registration weekend, some voters were captured manually, whilst others were captured on VMDs but not uploaded. These voters were entitled to participate in the election. There was a total of 238,000 voters who were eventually placed on the MEC 7 list, which were centrally connected to all VMDs. 129,000 of those on this list voted in their correct voting station on election day and during the special voting days. The Commission has noted the announcement by ESCOM that the national electricity grid is currently constrained and there may be a need to shed load sometime in the course of the day. Discussions are underway to insulate capturing sites in order to minimize the impact on the results collation process. The National Operations Center does have generators which will be used in the event load shedding affects the Pretoria West area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CEO, for the update. I'm going to open the floor for questions. May I request my colleagues to assist me accordingly. I'll start this side and go that way. Where's Bonolo? Bonolo, where are you? With the mic? Okay, Buti, can you start that? Oh, there's Bonolo. You are going to start that side, come this way. Ne? I've seen already hands this side. Let us proceed with the first question. May I request journalists to introduce themselves, the media house, and please try and give us a bit of a sound so that panelists can hear your question very clearly. Thank you very, very much. Let's proceed.
Good morning. Bongile Tumago, SABC News. We spoke to the DA, John Steenhuisen, a few minutes ago. He actually made some staggering allegations against you as the IEC regarding the fact that he doesn't really trust you guys because there were a lot of glitches in as far as the technology that Mr. Simon has been speaking about. that he says when they go back to Parliament, he's going to summon you guys to go there and account. It doesn't get worse than that in as far as trust, does it? It goes.
Thank you very much. Zianda Ngobo from Newsroom Africa. My question to the Commission is whether or not you regret...
Your sound says it just a little
All right.
bit. Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you so much, Zenda.
My question is regarding whether or not the Commission regrets rolling out the voter management devices, you know, in this election, knowing the time constraints. I've noted, CEO, that you are already seemingly complaining that you didn't even really want to have this election, and this is why voter turnout is the way it is. It's as if you're preempting the turnout. So then why do you roll out this voter management device, which has had so many glitches, and political parties are saying you're actually in denial about how much it's messed up this election in areas such as the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal?
Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Winning from Reuters News Agency. Do you have an official turnout figure yet in terms of percent? And also, on your elections page, you have a percentage figure complete in the top left corner. That's the number of voting districts where counting is being completed? And is one voting district equal to one polling station? Thank you. Thanks.
After that, you'll be coming to the front, no? If there's no other hands I've missed.
Good morning, Kaya Koko from Mail and Guardian. I just wonder if the Commission has an update on how many of the 67,000 people who were not uploaded to the live file regarding the VMDs yesterday, how many of them eventually voted? And thank you.
Thank you. Slinda Lomasigane from ENCA. You know, following what's happened over voting day, a lot of criticism coming to the IEC around what happened with ballot papers running out, with the VMDs in some places not working, that all of these glitches are inexcusable and that the IEC is trying to explain them away. Just how much responsibility is the IEC going to take in terms of planning? Do you think you planned well for this election? Your officials also seemingly on the ground, some of them, it seems as though they were harassing journalists, getting them arrested. Was there enough training for your IEC officials? Do you think you had enough time to actually hold these elections? And were these VMDs actually tested outside of the registration weekend?
Thank you very much. Let me allow the panel to take this first batch of questions. CEO, I've got 6 questions with me, about 5. May I pause so that you deal with the questions, and then from then we'll come back for the last round. Thank you very much.
Let Commissioner Love deal with the issue of trust. I'm sure Mr. Steyn doesn't trust me, but let's start first.
Thanks very much. You know, the issue of trust in the Commission, I think, is something that we need to look at in a broad way. Prior to these elections even being embarked on in terms of preparations, there were a number of political party leaders who believed that it was in order to make truly unfounded and untested allegations against the integrity of people who are in the Commission, both as commissioners and others. And clearly what we're saying in that regard is to besmirch the integrity of an institution that has performed incredibly under pressure and has shown itself to be able to deal in a manner that is truly, reflecting an impartiality and an independence without any shred of evidence is a problem. Having said that, I think that we wish to remind all of us that this Commission has never completed an electoral event without going to Parliament, without tabling a report and without including in that report some very serious reflection and a very serious consideration of how we can improve. We've never regarded ourselves as not needing to improve. It's an ongoing betterment for excellence, but also how certain changes can be brought about in the way in which we do things, including, for that matter, in terms of legislation. So I think that with regard to the idea of presenting an assessment, facing the criticisms and the views of members of Parliament, I don't think that that's something we feel any problem about. It's something that we would do anyway. What we are hopeful of is that in the reflection about how issues have been managed, what we're able to do is to look at facts and not to have a situation where the institution, the integrity of the institution, the value of the institution as a Chapter 9 institution is trashed in a completely unsubstantiated way. This organization deserves a huge amount of praise for what it has been able to pull off under incredibly difficult circumstances. I hope that that deals with it, CEO.
The issue of the VMDs, the reality of the matter is this. Without a VMD, it would have been a sheer impossibility to deliver this election. We, in September, for the first time within a day, we were able to upload 1.7 million registered voters simultaneously with their addresses. Previously, that project of address capturing would have taken at least 2 months to complete. So there are efficiencies that have been brought about by the introduction of the voter management devices. In this election, over the 3 days, every single voter who cast a ballot, we are confident that they cast the ballot in the correct ward. Very important in the context of a local government election, following the injunction of the Constitutional Court, that you can't influence the outcome of an election in a ward in which you are not ordinarily resident. Now, the VMD helps us with that control. Were they tested? Yes, indeed, they were tested. In fact, following the glitches that we experienced during the registration weekend, our business applications that run on those VMDs had to be revised. To give an example, on the mapping functionality, we had put close to 21 different layers on the maps. We reduced those layers to about 5 as part of trying to improve the functionality of the VMD. On the 29th, I think it was, of October, no, not the 29th, the 22nd of October, all presiding officers in the country went to their voting station, switched on their VMDs. There were a test transactions that they had to push through. With that process, we're able to do a trust test, we're able to do the applications functionality test on the 22nd of October. So perhaps before I leave the point, I think the VMD was an important national investment. And I think it has laid a solid base for exploiting digital technology to give us greater integrity and controls in our electoral processes. It has created a bit of frustrations, no doubt about it, but I think going forward, the country has laid a solid basis of exploiting technology to strengthen controls around our electoral democratic processes. The voting district, yes, there is one voting station in a voting district, so there's a one-to-one relationship. Nonetheless, there are, in some cases in the metros, 2 results that are expected, and outside of the metros, 3. Hence, the 65,000 results that we are working on. So, when you look at the website, bear that in mind. We did say that there were ultimately 239,000 people who we had either manually captured or not uploaded, but we placed those people centrally because the VMDs were centrally connected. We had placed those people on the MEC list so that when they got to the stations, they could vote. And in the circumstances, 139,000 of them, in fact, voted. Again, we are able to give you this detail because of the VMD. If we didn't have a VMD, we wouldn't be having this intelligence to give to you.
Thank you so much, CEO. May I request Dr. Masuku to deal with the issue of training after you?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, the issue of the ballot, we agree with you. We had provided sufficient ballots, and therefore there shouldn't have been a shortage. There's no reason why there should have been a shortage because sufficient ballots were printed at 100% across the country. What we do regret is that in the distribution chains, our officials made decisions about how much to take to the voting station, and in making those decisions, it resulted in the shortages. We regret that. It ought not to happen because it has created undue frustration on the side of the voters. Were we ready? We were ready. We worked under extreme pressure, no doubt about that, under extreme timelines, extreme time constraints. But by the time we reached election date, we were ready to deliver an election. Thanks.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Just to answer the question about what befell a member of the media fraternity and the pointed question about the quality of training. Let me first begin by saying this, and I think we will say it as often as we have the opportunity to say it. We apologize to, one, the reporters that have suffered in the hands of the people that are in voting stations. We also apologize to the fraternity of journalists for what happened. Does that mean that people did not receive training? No, it does not. Does that mean that training was inadequate? No, it does not. However, people behave in the most bizarre way when they're under pressure. Is that an excuse? It is not an excuse. It is a simple admission of the infallibility of the human being. So we did train. But also to say that we are trying to explain things away, I would rather see it as we need to explain to the nation as often as it is necessary about what it is that it is happening. Does it mean we don't accept responsibility? I'd love to tell you that all these people sitting here believe that the responsibility is ours and ours alone. It means that we continue to do what it is that we do. And by the way, you are not doing anything wrong by continuously shining our faults to us. We expect no less. But we also expect that you judge us on the basis of the magnitude of the task and what it is that we have sought to do. And you have every right to say we expect you better. We are in service of this nation, and you have every right to expect better, and we want to give you better. So to every single person that we have not served to the standard that South Africans expect, ours is to say to you, you deserve better, and that you didn't receive better. We offer you our unmitigated apology, and we pledge that we will do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masuku. May I take the last batch of questions? Thank you very much. Can we start this side and then go this way? I've got hands this side. Date, please proceed from your corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Moffat Mokwena from Channel Africa. Yesterday we received some complaints, especially from, I think, Ward 89, that there were some threats about, threats from obviously party agents. That's in Soshanguve. Now, this after the VMD could not release the voters, or maybe put the voters to the availability, But now, obviously, the IEC officials had to turn them back. And once they turn you back, you report to the party officials. So obviously, it arouses that kind of, heated debate outside. Now, what I want to know is that you mentioned the mapping system. I had to go there and I think during the registration, the mapping system, unfortunately, I'm not going to agree with you. I think the mapping system was tested in the suburban areas. Now, if you go to some areas, for example, in Soshanguve, where you have some settlements, the mapping system could not identify the settlement. They can't. That's a reality. Now, when we ask the IEC officials about the VMD system, they said, no, we cannot proceed because the VMD system, it's under they are updating, it's under construction or something like that. There were some technical glitches. Now it brings back what they were complaining about yesterday, that most people were turned away. Now I want to know that is this VMD reliable, as you say that it was tested, and what are we expecting in the national elections? Thank you very much.
Yeah. I've seen the hands on this side. The microphone is moving that way. Thank you. Proceed in that.
I just received a report that there are issues around the eThekwini results not being available. I don't know if you have been made aware of it, and if you have, what is the issue? Thank you.
Sinisa Schreiber from the Red. My question is around the ballot papers. CEO, you did state that you have established that this was in the logistic chain. And a lot of people that turned away from the lines would like to know what action is the Commission going to take in terms of those people that were responsible for this. And you stated that this should have not been the case, as the Commission had printed out sufficient papers, but people within your employment, they did not deliver on time. As a result, we had some people turning away from the lines. Secondly, yesterday, a 43-year-old man from Mamelodi was arrested as he tried to go for the second vote. However, he was caught, and I think the officials were scanning his ID and they were able to detect that he was trying to come back for the second vote. My first question related to this, are there any other incident like this reported? Secondly, the importance of developing technology so that the commission can be able to detect such. And lastly, we've been speaking on the low voter turnout. From the side of the IEC, low voter turnout, what does it mean for the commission and its constitutional responsibility? And lastly, just my last question, on the voter turnout, during the voter registration weekend, you did mention that there were some glitches and there were people who were not able to be registered. Could the commission at the time be able, because the timeline was quite tight, as you say, you needed to close the voters' roll so that things could proceed. Could at the time the people who had issues be addressed then so that maybe we could have seen an improvement in terms of the voter turnout? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Come this way, Ndate. This way, yes. Please introduce yourself and the media house. It makes it easier for panelists.
Yes, my name is Mtabisi Ndlejana. Good morning or good day. Brief one for Sai. You said there were 231,000 problematic voters. Their status, they were not captured, this and that. And of that number, 139 eventually voted, which then leaves us with 92,000 who did not vote. What does that mean? They didn't show up or they were turned away? What happened exactly?
Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. Quick one. How many complaints has the IEC actually received? How many do you expect to receive by close of today when the deadline expires for complaints? And will the IEC be able to resolve all complaints by the statutory deadline? Thank you.
My name is Nonkululeko Eko from the Times Live. I'm just asking regarding the situation of voting stations which had not opened by midday yesterday, particularly in the Eastern Cape. Was the IEC able to remedy this situation and how was it remedied? And lastly, just around voter turnout, we've heard of incidents where IEC representatives embarked on door-to-door campaign, for lack of a better word, pleading with people to go vote. Is the IEC aware of this, or rather was such a move authorized? Thank you.
Luyolam Kendane from Business Day. My question is, what has been the impact of the IEC's budget cuts on this election, from the procurement of PPE, voting material?
Can you just 1 minute? Just give us a little bit of a volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to find out what has been the impact of the IEC's budget cuts on this election, from the procurement of PPE, voting material, and also the training of electoral staff. How bad have the cuts been? Thank you.
Bonano, may I please request the gentleman to repeat his question again for the benefit of the panel, please? My apologies. We've got a bit of, there's too many of us here.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that the panel understands your question. Please repeat it for us.
The question is, last year, Simon Mabolo was quoted saying that the IEC's budget cuts of nearly 120 million have had a significant impact on the IEC's institutional life. Now the question is, what has been the impact on this particular election, with regards to procurement of PPE, voting material, and also the training of electoral staff? I just want to know how bad have the cuts been. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yoli Sanjamela from SABC Television News. Should I continue?
Bonalo, have we covered all the questions on this row? After this one, we take the last one from the gentleman there. Then the panel can be able to respond. Is he starting first? Okay. All right. Thank you. Proceed, Bonono, and then the lady at the corner.
Lisa Gatando from the Mail and Guardian. Just for clarity, when exactly should we expect the final result?
Thank you very much.
I think I'm covered. I wanted to ask, since the 90% of the results are anticipated to be coming in tonight, are you now going to announce the results on Wednesday instead of the Thursday that was planned? Name is Yodisa Njamela, SABC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. I think we've got about 8 questions that we need to look at. If we may please proceed.
Okay. To go back to the issue of the VMD, the point that I was making about mapping functionalities, that enhancements had to be made between the period after the registration weekend and the election, so as to optimize functionality. And that was done, which is why, in our view, we had a much better performance on this occasion than was the case during the registration weekend, because those lessons that we learned during the registration weekend had to be ameliorated so that we improve functionality for election day. Now, one thing to say is that, please note that in any event, the ZipZip machine had also reached the end of its useful life. So we needed to reinvest, but it wouldn't have been wise to invest in a similar technology, because a ZipZip was a technology of its time around 1998. So we needed to embrace new technological solutions which addressed our nascent and contemporary challenges, such as ensuring that you have an address on the voter's roll, a person, that address places the person in the correct ward segment, and so on and so on. In 1999, when the ZipZip was first purchased, that complexity was not there. It's a complexity that has come about due to the decisions of the judiciary in relation to them interpreting electoral law. Now, I want to link that answer with the person that is allegedly arrested for attempting to vote twice. Is precisely the effectiveness of the VMD. Because in the VMD we are able to record that you voted elsewhere already when you try to make a second attempt. So, which is why I was saying we are fortifying the controls around the electoral process. You attempt to vote there and come and vote elsewhere, you're going to be caught out. And when you're caught out, you need to be prosecuted with vigor. Etegwini, I was on the phone just before the media conference. We've not had reports. We'll go check that out about the results not being available or something. The ballot paper, what action to take? I think all we could say at this stage that the necessary corrective measures in terms of the policy of the organization will be implemented in relation to the affected officials. Now, the question about the 90,000 odd, yes, indeed, those are no-shows. The 90,000 you identified are no-shows. Had they come, they would have been helped. The voting stations that opened late, how did we resolve them? We, together with the municipalities involved, had to refill the trenches that had been dug on the road to voting stations. And as we did that, we then deployed additional security personnel for those voting stations. So eventually they were able to operate. We want to put in as many and finalize as many as we can the results by early evening, and we estimate that we should be in a position to do approximately 90%, and the balance then tomorrow. All things equal, the Commission will probably declare the final results on Thursday. Then the other issues of objections and the complaints, as well as voter turnout, I would like Ndatemi Adra to deal with the issue of voter turnout and Commissioner Love to deal with the objections.
I think we have indicated, and perhaps we do need to say, that whatever numbers we have been given in the course of an election, those were the numbers we harvested from the VMD. By our political parties, and I imagine persons in the media that I'm not sure about, and ourselves in the Commission, were able to see how many people voted between 7 and 8, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, or 9 and 10, and so on and so forth. That was the value of helping with the numbers. Whatever that number was at the end of the day, it represented only yesterday, because we were reporting those numbers that came to the station in those times. What we now need to do, and what the results will show, is that persons who voted in special voting days, Saturday and Sunday, are now going to be added to the numbers you saw yesterday. The result of which is, as you look at the board, in those municipalities where results have been finalized, or those wards or voting stations where results have been finalized, per voting station, you're now able to see everyone that has voted, every vote that has been counted, and what that represents. You're also able to see, to the extent that you are saying, what was the value of the 240,000 people, it will show per voting station what that impact is. I say to you, the numbers on the table, on the leaderboard, don't lie. They will now give per voting station, per ward, per municipality, per province, and eventually we will aggregate them to a national level on the exact voter turnout. It will not be a number we estimate, it will be the exact number to the voter. And that really is what we are saying. We will not give that number, or we are not able to give that number for the whole election, because the whole election is not complete, or we have not completed counting. But in those instances where the results are in, when you report on those numbers, they are the exact numbers that represent voter turnout to the extent that they have been finalized. I trust that I've dealt with your questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Miepia. May I request the CO to wrap up the remaining two questions? Commissioner Love, thank you very much.
Sorry, I've been asked to deal with the issue of complaints and I presume also objections. When it comes to complaints, I mean, these are in relation to the Code of Conduct. The Commission processed very few complaints outside of social media complaints, which were processed through our partnership that we announced before the elections with Media Monitoring Africa and some of the platforms. These saw a number of people logging into the Real 411 website, and those were processed, and as you will all know, once processed, to the extent that there was some indication of disinformation, as we've clearly defined it. Those were then referred to the respective platforms for them to process in terms of their own respective and different, in some instance, policies. And also, of course, they saw a significant increase in the manner in which complaints could be lodged with them, and they were able to respond to those. A report on this will be issued. In terms of objections, which are in relation to the specifics of the voting process, we have until now received only 3 objections. I'm not hoping for more, but in normal circumstances, it's really once we start to see these processes coming to a close that some of those objections will come to us. Will we be able to process them before announcing results? We are obliged by law to process each and every one of them before announcing results, and so that is what we undertake and will do.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Love. Then the issue of budget for PPE, Treasury did assist us eventually with an allocation to cover the PPE costs, and we've applied that budget to procure the PPE for all voting stations officials.
Thank you very much, CEO. I'm going to close with 2 questions from our online platform. We'll still advise on the next media briefing. Bonolo, your last 2 questions from the online platform.
The first question reads, does the Commission regret the choice of a Monday for a voting day, seeing that people treated it as a holiday in a typical sense of the word, which clearly contributed to low voter turnout? Considering how the IEC handled the election date issue, including the controversial extension of the cutoff date for submission of candidate lists and now the incident of voting irregularities that were conducted by officials in Limpopo and elsewhere in the country, does the Commission acknowledge that this has a credibility crisis? And the last question reads as follows. Can the IEC confirm that special votes in some polling stations in Waverley, Pretoria were not committed and counted for because the IEC officials believed that the ballot boxes were tampered with? If it's true, what will happen to those special votes? We spoke to some officials with Pretoria News who then noted that they excluded the special votes from counting after they discovered that the number of ballot papers didn't tally to the ones they'd recorded on Saturday and Sunday. Can the IEC please confirm that the voting process in some polling stations in Waverley, Pretoria were disrupted after IEC official closed them 30 minutes in the evening because they were unhappy that they didn't sign contracts of employment?
Thank you very much, CEO. The last 2 questions will be done.
The choice of a Monday was forced on us by circumstances rather than a preferred choice. Historically, we've had elections on a Wednesday precisely to avoid the long weekend effect and its associated displacement effect it has on voters. But in the circumstances, the Commission needed every hour and minute available to deliver this election. So circumstance was more of a overriding consideration rather than a preferred choice. The issue about the credibility crisis and so on. The Commission is delivering a service at 23,000 points, employing 185,000 officials, close to 190,000 voters. Officials. Now, they undergo training and they subscribed to a particular code of conduct to which they commit. But some do things that are untoward and not prescribed. And when that happens, the Commission takes corrective action, which includes expelling them, which includes blacklisting them so that they may not be used in future elections, and so on. So the issue really, the test, is what does the Commission do when matters such as those that you describe are brought to the attention of the Commission? That's the test. And not so much whether some staff members do commit misconduct. But rather, when misconduct is reported and brought to the attention of the Commission, what does the Commission do? And in all cases where material was brought to us indicating misconduct, the Commission took necessary corrective measures. The issue of Waverley and the exclusion of ballots from special votes has not come to our attention, but that type of decision is one that is within the purview of the Commission. It's not a decision that a presiding officer and officials in a voting station can make. They'll need to be authorized for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's leave it on that note. We'll advise on the next press briefing. Leadership of the IEC, thank you very much. This press briefing has come to an end.